Hey there. It's a little dark. I didn't realize that behind me was so dark. I apologize. I'm just gonna pull the channel up on my phone and make sure things are working as they should be. Give me a second to do that, please, and thank you. If you are watching the rebroadcast, I would ask that you give it a moment or two as well. This is kind of a mashup because what I have to say at the beginning should not take that long. I want it to be a really easy grab for most people. I want it to be um, easy to comprehend and understand. So, uh, I've played with the right way to say this and how to talk about this for a long time now. And if you've not been here for a while, again, this isn't going to take long, but I do want to see if the channel is at least operating and broadcasting anything if anyone other than myself shows up uh, to view it live. So as I'm doing these things, I'm also testing the algorithm and the channel visibility to see if it's operating. So yeah. Now, I've played with a lot of different ways to say this. At the beginning of my journey, God told me to go to the churches, go to all the churches in the area. God's Holy Spirit, I believe, led me back to individual churches in the area to see the different denominations. And then at the end, told me to go home. But at the very beginning, God had made it known to me, and I've said this over and over on the channel, that it was not to be, not that it wasn't a good idea. I tell you that it's not a good idea, but I was told not to be a member of any church in this time. Now, again, I was told to go back to all of the churches, however, and to discern. And so that's what I did. And much like Paul in his letters, how he saw error with each one of them, it's pretty easy to determine the error that's in ours today. And that's only because, none of us is perfect. So, of course, our institutions and our organizations are not perfect either. I also made it very clear that the things that I do are not things necessarily that you should do. Okay. Um, what I do, you shouldn't feel pressured to do unless, not even unless I say, hey, I think you should do this or this is advice. It's not advice. It's me sharing my testimony, cautionary testimony, hopefully, so that no matter who you are, man, woman, boy, child, woman, wife, husband, maybe you can take some of this back to your own life and learn from my mistakes. Now, I've never been what they call a pope-splainer. I'm not going to sit here and say that things that the Catholic Church, the organization, do is correct. I have a whole playlist on Francis, Pope Francis. If you want to check that out, you can go see it. Um, I believe that they lied to us. I believe that the Pope and that the Queen were gone long before they said. And I believe they've been using like these fake AI hologram type things for a long, long time. Um, I needed to do a little more research into World War II. And I know this is going to seem like a weird jump to most of you. This is why you need to listen to a whole conversation. And this will only take about 5 to 10 minutes. But again, I need to see if anyone actually shows up. Because if the videos are being hidden, what's the point of me putting myself out there and in danger if no one's going to see them anyways? So, and this video could do that. Every video could do that, depending on who you are and what you're talking about. I believe that the Catholic Church has a lot of sound doctrine. The question is, how did they come about that? How did they come about the history? How did they come about the historicity of it all? How did they come up with the documentation of all these various people that Rome itself had persecuted? Do you know what I'm saying? I also told you about the replacement theory of my own. I didn't read any books to get this. It's something that I think that you should be able to discern once you start researching history and society and sociology and how people operate in human behavior. There are certain things you should just be able to discern. Um, so I wondered, I do believe in a lot of our doctrine, and a lot of the things that are taught are good tenets for just leading a moral and ethical life. I'm not here to say anything again. There are bad representatives of every group, and sometimes that's done intentionally, and we're going to talk about that briefly. And that's what World War II has to do with the Catholic Church and the medical industry as well. So I had my suspicions, but again, as I've told you many times, don't do what I do. Just because I do something, the things that are for me aren't necessarily for you. God told me something that was just for me. 2 years ago, when I went back to when I started going to the Catholic Church, after I had visited all the others in the area, a variety of denominations, God told me something because I was praying and I was not in reverent prayer. I was having an actual conversation with God, and I was saying, how do I do this? How do I go back there to this church, especially if the Antichrist may have made his home there or may be making his home there? And the voice of God, in my mind and my prayer time said, much like you are in your home situation, right? Like you feel like you're in the fire. You need to, if you are, you need to go see if you're among the enemy. I want you. That's where you need to be. Now, again, not everything I do is for you to do. Trojan horse, right? I've explained this theory a variety of times since 2019 started, and you see nobody else is getting any type of notification. And it's been 24 hours since I uploaded anything, and I use tags. So theoretically, this should be a video that's getting some visibility. Not, and one of the people in the chat right now is me. So, son, whoever you are, please stop monitoring me and let the video be seen by those that will actually help. Like, that's what needs to happen. This video is very hard for me to make because of how I was raised in my childhood. And I've had to spend time looking at my family, looking at history, people close to me, and not with rose-colored glasses. So when I was talking to God and I said, why should I go back to the Catholic Church? That might very well be where the Antichrist dwells. And God said Trojan horse. And I was like, oh, because I knew back then when I saw things popping off in 2019, I said, they're already here in the US. Whoever it is that's taking over is already doing it behind the scenes. They're already in our borders. We've had open borders for a very long time. Our enemies are within. And I got that message about all the churches too, right? That the people, there are ravenous wolves right beside us. And I also told you this, that certain denominations are raising us like this on purpose so that we are consenting martyrs, because they feel, I guess that's probably the more humane way to reduce the population, which none of these things need done anyway, because God would not give us a realm that doesn't sustain itself. But I digress. So I knew that I was going back into very possibly and probably the enemy's territory when I went to the Catholic Church. I defend the doctrine and the historical documents, and insofar as they can be proven out by cross-referencing them with other documents, other historical documents. I do not agree with the way they live. I do not agree with the opulence and the luxury and just I don't, not at all. And I feel like a lot of Christ followers go to that church because they're like, well, I can have it both here. I can follow Christ, but it's okay for me to be opulent here because it's a blessing or whatever. So I've never agreed with that either. And I had to spend time relearning some of the tenets because I had not been to the Catholic Church or catechism since I was a child. Now, I do still believe confession is cathartic for the soul. I do still believe in communion, though not in exactly the way that, again, probably the Catholic Church thinks that I should. And I've told you this. I've told you about these problems that I've had, but for anyone new, this is why I'm going over this. So I'm going to show you something that very clearly shows the position that the Antichrist is either currently in, held prior, or will hold soon. Because we don't know what time we're in. If we're in Satan's little season, this would make sense. Something happened in World War II. Now, what does that have to do with everything? Well, when I started looking at the history of things, when I said, okay, I'm not going to look at the religion and the beauty of the Catholic Church and the doctrine, feeling and resonating with me, I'm going to look at secular history and World War II. Because I had a suspicion when my confessional seal was broken, I said, that'd be a really good way to spy on people. Catholic priests would make really good spies. And then I heard the story of St. Faustina, and I saw the one picture in existence of St. Faustina. And then I saw the painting. Now, anyone that reads their Bible knows we're not really supposed to be drawing images of Christ himself. I don't think we're supposed to be doing that. Men also aren't supposed to wear hats, but all of the popes and the bishops, they all wear hats. And again, this is very hard for me to do because I'm being disloyal here to the family who raised me in a way. So that's hard, obviously. During World War II, there was this painting that St. Faustina had commissioned, allegedly, and it's allegedly of Christ, and it's like a red, white, and blue deal. And they told people during World War II, if you hang this on your doorway, you'll be protected. And I thought that would work really well as a code for people who are in on it or in the they could say God protected them, but hey, here's this picture, this symbol letting you know, don't loot this house, don't pillage it, don't hurt the occupants of this home. They're in the Catholic Church, don't do them harm. Not spiritually, but because of who their bedfellows are. And again, the Catholic Church speaks adamantly against communism. Communal living is actually what the Essenes did. So the way we look at communism, again, America has been so propagandized that this is very hard to discuss things that people have probably not thought of before. So I thought, gee, when I saw that painting, I said, that would be a really interesting way to kind of signal to people. And then you hear about World War II, about appropriation and about the orphan trains and all the appropriation that we have today and how nobody knows who they are, where they come from, or what their true culture is as a people. During World War II, they also were given, the Vatican was given, allegedly, all of this art and things to watch over. All of the artwork, all of the paintings, all of the statues, all of it was given to the Vatican for safekeeping. So that's another point, right? And I've told you about replacers, about people who say they're the good guys, right? Like, how do we know that when allegedly somebody goes on a rescue mission? I mean, it's the getaway thing for almost every good cops and robbers movie, right? When you see that you're going to be caught or you're right amongst people, you pretend to be one of them, right? So, for example, you call the cops and say that a house is being burglarized 10 minutes after you've gotten everything out of the house. You're commended for being a good citizen when actually you're the villain. So the Roman Catholic, that part of it I dislike. I understand that certain people were converted, certain centurions or whatnot, but the whole system persecuted Christ and his followers. So how hard would it be for them to jail the remaining members, tell whatever story they wanted, and then take the place of all of them? So I'm going to show you something really simply for anyone who has a Christian or Catholic background. I'm going to show you the definition of two words. And this points to the title or the seat that the Antichrist held, is holding, or will hold eventually. So let me share a screen with you. And I'm going to bring up the etymology. And I'm going to make sure that it shares. Let's go back out because my phone is wonky that way. Let's make sure it's sharing. And there we go. Okay, so if you missed the beginning, you're going to want to see it because I explain how I got here. So anyone that wants to go make a video and say, oh, she's in that church, she goes to that church, you need to watch the first 15 minutes of the video. So I'm going to show you two definitions who point to the office of who. All right, so by definition, by etymology, the word antichrist comes from the Greek words anti-avi, I think, meaning against or opposite or in place of. That's very important, that in place of. So just hang in there. And Christos, meaning anointed one or Christ. So antichrist is someone who is against or in place of Christ. That's key. Anyone who was raised in the Catholic Church should know the definition of this. But again, I couldn't do this video right away. I couldn't come right out and say this. I had to do a little footwork about World War II. We're going to go back and look at World War II in the next couple of videos, which is why I have to touch on this now. And again, I need people to understand. I'm always the first to tell you when you see something trending, it's usually the wrong way to go. You have all of these people now joining the Catholic Church. And again, I'm behind a lot of the teachings, but where did they get those teachings? So anyway, very simply, layman's terms, the Antichrist, the word itself means, anti means against, opposite, or to take the place of. Well, gee, anyone who is a cradle Catholic or goes back and relearns the glossary of definitions, the title, Vicar of Christ, is what the Pope means. Pope means Vicar of Christ. Well, Pope means Papa, Father, or whatever. But the title of the Pope is Vicar of Christ. It comes from Latin Vicarius Christi, meaning in the place of Christ. Let's go back again for anyone who missed it. What is the Pope? He's the Vicar of Christ. What does that mean? He is taking the place of Christ. If we go back to the definition of Antichrist, one of the meanings of it is in place of. So we have the Antichrist meaning in place of Christ. And we have the literal definition of Pope, aka Vicar of Christ, meaning he is in the place of Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, your Antichrist is going to be, was, or is Pope. And it pains me to say that. I didn't want it to be true, but I had to do the proper footwork to back up what the Lord told me about Trojan horse and how I had to become a Trojan horse. And there's also my confession a little bit. I haven't told you everything yet, but a little bit of what I held back. The Lord told me to go in and walk amongst them because I had to go to every church. I couldn't skip my home. I had to check out my home too. And you always go home when? You go home last. Everybody running to the Catholic Church right now is not a good sign. Kirk's wife, alleged wife, the TV persona of Mrs. Kirk, Holding out the rosary, not a good sign. My seal of confession being broken, not a good sign. The ruckus in the church, somebody following me to mass, not a good sign. And being carried off in an ambulance, not a good sign. I'm not trying to read omens here. They're just, there's nothing, they're there. Like there's nothing else that can be done about it. So now I'm debating, do I end this video now and leave it short and user-friendly, or do I dip into the Philip K. Dick short story that I wanted to read to folks? And I know that people don't want to hear this. Like they don't want to hear about certain things in this regard. What is that thumbs up for like stop now? So it's user-friendly. How many minutes is it? 20 minutes. I could stop now and then do a whole nother thing, or just not do it and let it ride and see how far this video gets, if it gets any push at all. It's really hard though when they're super long. So you know what? I think I'm gonna make myself available in the comments for anyone who has questions. I can elaborate on these stories of like how I came to this and how I got here, but I said that for at the beginning of this for anyone who missed it. There is a list on Francis, on my thoughts on him and the things, the information, and the symbology of the Catholic Church. But if we are in Satan's short season, and if the Pope itself, no matter what Pope, is one of his, is the Antichrist, either tribulation, how far back does it go? It would go back to the beginning. But all we know are the last 40 or 50 years for sure, all of us who have been alive at this time. And now seeing AI and having the experience I have with doing photos and background eraser and all those things, I have to be very blunt in saying St. Basilica Square and all that, and it doesn't look entirely real. It doesn't. It just doesn't. And again, this is why they want to acclimate everybody's eyes. This is why they handed out the digital phones. All of this can be erased and replayed in a few more years when they have the next generation raised, and they're all consenting martyrs to call the population when it gets a little too big. And most churches are only too willing to raise a bunch of willing martyrs. And I'm not saying martyrdom is a bad thing. I mean, if you're going to pass away, in my perspective, there are worse ways to go. But thank you. But it is what it is. That's the definition of Antichrist, is in the place of or opposing Christ. And especially now with what we saw recently at the alleged Vatican. And again, you got to be careful. Is this actually what's happening at the Vatican, or is this only what they're showing Americans? I don't know. And I'm not speaking against God or Christ's true church, the remnant, the body of believers, temples. When he sits in God's temple, when he gets in your mind, okay? So Revelation is a book that is very individualistic too. It's talking about your life, your walk with the Lord. And if you let that one in who opposes Christ inside of your temples, there's a parallel of everything. If you step outward, everything that's true has that type of resonance, has that echo. And there's nothing else I could do. I had to come out and say everyone who's raised Catholic knows this, but they're not thinking, right? Because so many of us go through our days without really thinking. I took Sammy on his morning walk the other day, and I finally understood what people meant when they said they drove to work and don't remember. I took him on a whole walk. I barely remember it because I was half asleep. It's not good. We should never be like that. Even when we're unconscious, we should be the masters of our own domain. This is heartbreaking for me. And another clue that gives it away is that the church is like, it's so beautiful to us. It looks so beautiful. And oftentimes things that are beautiful to us. Oh, and one more thing, lying signs and wonders. God forgive me. Not in every case, but lying signs and wonders could very easily be holograms bouncing off of the firmament. This is why they don't want you to know there's a firmament, because they can put lasers up there and have it act as a projector screen, which very easily could be some of the Fatima visions, the people, the things, the Catholic signs and wonders. So I'm gonna go now. This was a hard video. I love you guys. Stay blessed. I'll do another video with the Philip K. Dick. I will read that story. I just downloaded it. And I'm also probably going to read, for those who have a little higher attention span and intellectual level right now, and those who are unaware, it's called The Tale of Two Cities. And it's about the disparity between the rich and the poor. Um, that's where our hearts should dwell. We shouldn't focus so much on like the antichrist, anti this, anti that. But I promised I would expose these things. And the more I do, the healthier I get and the better my life gets and the better for my children. God bless you all. Have a great day. Pray for me as I pray for you. Thank you for being here.